the stress that Apsana's been under, it hasn't had a good impact on her mental health, has it? And we've also seen now that Sam Tarry, the candidate the MP for Ilford South, is being threatened with deselection. These two MPs both happen to be prominent supporters of Jeremy Corbyn when he was leader. Can you tell us what kind of tactics are being used to try and deselect?
Yes, I mean, it's worth pointing out that the hostile press was briefed by the Labour Party months ago that there was 4 MPs that particularly wanted to get rid of, and Apsana and Sam Tarry were 2 of them. You know, they're working their way through the list by the looks of it. I mean, the tactics have varied a little bit across the 2 different constituencies. We saw, you know, them try the judicial route last year to try to get rid of Apsana Begum and take it to the court on what people who were in the hearing said was absolutely ridiculous lack of evidence. But, you know, the people who, I think it was her ex-husband who she'd accused of abusing her, was, you know, sort of played some kind of key role on the housing committee in the council. The, you know, other friends and relatives of his were in similar positions, and it was, you know, it seems to have been driven by a grudge, really, that decision to take it to court. And I mean, it was a scandal that it ever got that far, and it was rightly thrown out, you know, it was dismissed. So, you know, that one failed, but obviously it would have taken a big toll on Apsana, a lot of stress and pressure for her. But then when it came to the trigger processes, the key thing that people have been saying who are members there is that there's been active intimidation of people going into the trigger meetings, particularly women from ethnic minority backgrounds, to try to force them not to support Apsana. They have there's rumours that there have been bribes offered to people in order not to support her as well, which would be a major criminal offence. I haven't been able to stand that up yet, but that's what I'm told. There are, there's been, and this is a symptom everywhere that they're trying to get rid of, pretty much anywhere where there's a left MP, you'll see this sudden influx of union branch affiliations with, from the right-wing unions who are, and a lot of those have not bothered to show any kind of proof that they have anybody living in the constituency from that union branch, but they've certainly all affiliated at once. And in the case of Apsana Begum, they were allowed to affiliate halfway through the process. So where they should have been, the rules said they were going to close that list of affiliates who could vote in the process at the outset and then communicate all that to the people involved. They decided they'd reopen that in the middle and allow a bunch of extra branches to come in and vote against her. And scandalously, when there have been a couple of reports in the papers about what's been going on there, but it's very much been this kind of both sides in of everything of, Apsana says this and somebody else says that, and the journalists tend to assume that it's all being exaggerated. But the Labour Party, when they made a statement to the paper, it's scandalously, from my point of view, used that as an opportunity to smear her performance as an MP, and essentially say, "Oh, well, we take all these complaints very seriously," but and then in the next breath said, "But all the branches have voted against her, and we think she's probably not a very good MP." So they weren't taking it very seriously at all. It's absolute bollocks. And they felt at no point have they offered her any support, even in the criminal thing. Keir Starmer didn't say a word. He found time to tweet about whatever football or whatever tournament was on at the time, but he didn't find any room to tweet any congratulations for her on being acquitted in that criminal proceeding. And they've failed at every step on the, not only failed in safeguarding, but I believe actively colluded in the attempts to hound her out and break her down in the process, which has been absolutely scandalous. So, I mean, he said at the beginning,
is that the regional office just turning a blind eye to it?
Well, regional office in London has got a scandalous track record, really. I mean, I remember contacting them last year when several councillors were accused of anti-Semitism and other racism. One of them had been suspended by the party and therefore wasn't a party member anymore. And yet still, when I put a request for comment into that councillor, who shouldn't be getting any protection from the Labour Party, suddenly I get a call from Labour officials saying, "Oh, we're the ones who are fielding this." So they were still acting on his behalf, even though he was supposedly at the party. So you know, they've got a sorry track record in terms of the way that they've protected right wingers from actual wrongdoing and stitched up left wingers. But you know, I don't think there's any question that whose orders they're doing that on. It's being instructed from the central party. It's not just something they're doing off their own back because they feel like it.
And with Sam Terry, this is a kind of new development that he's written a letter. Who did he write the letter to? Was it to the?
Well, he wrote the letter to the party, to David Evans and Keir Starmer, I believe. And his list is slightly different, but there's no reason to think that the tactics that he's listing haven't also been used in Apsana Begum's case. It's just that the stuff that's grabbed attention has been the more overt abuse and intimidation stuff. But in his case, they've had, he's reported that he's given evidence to the party of people being allowed to vote who don't even live in the constituency, of people being allowed to vote impersonating somebody else who is a member. That they're, again, similarly with the branches, have been stacked up to try to remove them. So it is absolutely. I mean, it's almost like one of those cartoons where you want to put your foot through the TV. Last week, hearing Keir Starmer talk about integrity and honesty and stuff, and I don't think he'd know it if it came and bit him in the arse, frankly.
No, that's true. That's the point. I mean, he keeps going on about that kind of stuff. He should just keep it quiet, shouldn't he? I mean, there's so many stories about him not being honest. That
the whole war that they've wedged on, not just on the left, but on any kind of democracy within the party, has been, an absolute farce, really, and a sick joke. And then but you get up there quite straight-faced and claim that he represents something better. And to be honest, I think he'd be worse. I think if he got into power, it'd be worse because he's more embedded. The security services tried to block Boris Johnson's access to information when he was Foreign Secretary because they knew, they thought he was dodgy. Yeah. And, or at least that's what's reported. And, so they're suspicious of Boris Johnson, but he's completely, as far as I can tell, his relationship with them is so close that they will enable him, if they can, to get into Downing Street, and then watch out because, all the stuff that the Tories have been doing to try and clamp down on free speech, I think will look like nothing compared to what he'll push through if given the opportunity.